I'm welcoming you to the launch of the International Solidarity Feminist Spatial Practices Initiative. This launch is both the last event of the Feminist Week at the Architecture faculty in the TU Delft, or the last event before the drinks. And the launch of our new initiative. And this program today is organized in collaboration with the BK-Feminist Week, with PAF from Belgium, and with Feminist Spatial Practices. And we have just finished a collaborative sewing workshop. I'm telling this mostly for the people that are joining online. We've just finished a sewing workshop on which we will talk a little bit more later. And now in this presentation, I will tell you a little bit more about what feminist spatial practices is and does. And I will tell you a little bit more about our new International Solidarity initiative. And I'm very grateful I'm not doing this alone. I will do this together with some people that have traveled from afar and are here in person, and some people that are here with us online. And I will all introduce them at the point when they're sharing their work. As you can see, we also have a lot of people joining from online right now, and they will show up when they speak. And that's why there is like a person there in the corner of the screen, so you can understand that. Oh yeah, let me click here. Yes, this is how it works. So before I'm starting the longer talk, we came up with the idea to always start our meetings with an opening statement. And that's why I would I'd like to read out this collectively written statement in which I honor and celebrate the diverse intergenerational feminist activism and knowledge on which we are building and organizing today. Very much to remember everybody that we are not reinventing the wheel all the time. There is a long history of which we are part of. Feminism goes beyond pursuits of gender equity, advocating for and with all whose lived experience are marginalized due to hierarchies of power and privilege. I acknowledge my own position and role as a neurospicy white cis woman based in the Netherlands and shaped through my, education at this very faculty. I aim to open to as many perspectives as possible to expand beyond this positionality, while at the same time using my positionality and my position today, this very faculty again, and this network, to collaborate with other feminist spatial practitioners to drive change. And in doing so, I invite you to acknowledge your own position and also the position of the people that are here with us in this collective intergenerational work across geographies and times. And to give that a little bit more body than just saying it out, I invite you now to just say hi to the people that's sitting next to you, and online for everybody to share in the chat from which location they are joining. And we cannot see the chat. Yeah, so first say hello. I try to see. Yeah. And we cannot see the chat, so maybe Bryony or Lindsay, could you share with us from where we have people joining today?
We have hellos from Los Angeles, from New York, from Madrid, from Brooklyn, from Rome, from Finland, from Pakistan, from Bengaluru, India, Antwerp, Milan, and probably going to be more coming.
Well, this is already really nice to have a little bit of an idea of that it goes beyond what we are doing here today. Thank you for that. Let me move on. So I actually wanted to start with a kind of like reflection on hope, because when I was talking to Irene in organizing this week, she asked me to take the last slot of this week because she said feminist spatial practices and the archive you're building gives hope. And that's not only like an honor for us and for the co-workers I'm collaborating with, but I also was thinking, what does it actually mean to give hope, or how can I understand that? And um, I think, especially if you talk about feminist design, we almost speak about hope in terms of the future. So hope is very much forward-looking. It's speculative. It's aspirational. In Dutch, we say hope geeft leven. Hope gives life. And as architects and designers and world builders, we are trained to speculate and to give form to these imagined futures. And well, I think especially as feminist world builders, we draw on blueprints for care, where difference is generative, where, well, architecture is an instrument of liberation and not of domination. And I've heard this throughout the whole week already. So there's something very enchanting in hope. But on the other side, it can be very depleting. Because, well, imagining better futures can be energizing. We also all, and I think this was also discussed this week, know this feeling like after the panel or after the workshop, that you're confronted with reality. Or even when you go out of architecture school and you get a job in an office and you think, oh, whoa, this is it. So, well, the future might be something like energy giving and radiant, or in our drawings. It's also sometimes very heavy in our bodies. And slowly, almost without noticing, hope becomes something like, oh, let's hope for the best. It becomes a very passive thing. And then it becomes a kind of waiting, and that starts to drain us. But today I was thinking I'm speaking actually about another kind of hope. It's a hope that's very much present in the here. It's not necessarily about the future. I see so much hope in the conversations we have, in the sewing we do together. And I think this was also the kind of hope Irene was thinking about when she placed us at the end of the week. It's not a projection, it's not a distant horizon, it's about being present and about what we're doing now. Can I turn this off? I don't know. No, let's not. And so then hope is not primarily our ability to imagine a better world, but it's our willingness to connect in this one and to collaborate together in this one. And then hope is this remarkable thing that starts to pop up all the time, even if you're tired. It's still there. It kind of wants to be there. It's kind of stubborn. And I sense this in making this project, in seeing you here in this week. So hope doesn't ask us to be endlessly optimistic. It just asks us to be present and to show up and to talk to each other. And it's not something about tomorrow, but it's something about what we're doing today. And I hope very much that what we are sharing here, also in this presentation, gives you an experience of this kind of hope and how we are working together. So on that note, I would really like to pass on the word to two of my co-workers. They will do it together. One is Lindsay Harkema. She's an architect based in New York. She will be joining us from online. And the other one is Daphne over there. And so she will come to the front here. And together, they will tell a little bit more about what feminist spatial practices is and what we have been doing so far. So, Lindsay, I hope. Yes, thank you. There she is. I can do the next slide for you.
Thank you, Renske. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Lindsay Harkema, a representative of FSP speaking from New York. And I'm so happy to be able to participate today. As a collaborator of Rinska, we've been talking about this for a long time, and it's so exciting and affirming to have arrived to this day as a start of many more to come in many other places. And Renska invited me to, similar to what she just said so beautifully, open with a kind of inspirational idea. And this quote from Audre Lorde always comes to my mind when I think about feminist practice. Feminisms and feminist spatial practices have always been and always will be. They are diverse and multiple, situated and universal, unique and common. They are practices of care and creation, maintenance and rebirth. And so this quote reminds us that feminist practice holds multiple timelines and temporalities at once, learning from the past, emboldening the present, and improving the future. I think it, on the surface, reads as a statement about motherhood, which I feel sort of affinity with because I identify as a mother, as I have children. But also it speaks to the intergenerationality of feminist practice. We support ourselves as well as our peers, those who came before us and those in the future across time and difference. Next slide, Renska. So feminist spatial practices responds to this plurality as a network. In addition to working on this international solidarity project, I've been a part of the process working group within FSP, which over the past couple of years has spent a lot of time and thought crafting and recrafting a description of what the group does. Feminist Spatial Practices is a global collective of architects, artists, designers, and scholars that celebrate the diverse ways of working towards intersectional gender equity in the built environment. Through workshops, lecture series, and creative projects, we foster an international community of thinkers, advocates, and makers of any background and gender identification who can connect to support each other. And on the next slide, we've also identified a number of core values that we feel are essential to this work, and I'll read now. Bringing together feminist spatial practices from around the world, celebrating the diversity of ways that feminism is practiced, recognizing the complex and intersectional inequalities that exist due to hierarchies of power and privilege, advocating for and with those most affected by hierarchies of power, including BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ communities and practitioners. Welcoming people of any gender or sexual identity to engage with feminism and our community. Centering care, equity, and co-creation in spatial practices, and cultivating participatory and reciprocal practices in our organization and with our community. So you see here a diagram that describes the way FSP is composed. It's a collection of working groups that each focus on particular efforts and also exchange and share actions, information, and of course, dialogue collectively. You can see the names of some of the individuals involved and some who have been leaders of those working groups over the past couple of years, and also a sense that this is always dynamic and fluid. Next slide. And since its beginning in 2023, the organization has convened many in-person and online gatherings ranging from collective making events to exhibitions to lectures to reading groups to conference presentations and more. So on the next slide, we also want to recognize that in addition to our programming, FSP maintains an interactive online archive that highlights, promotes, and shares feminist practices in art, design, architecture, and activism that have existed across geographies and time. This global survey of practices was the part of the origin of this group, and the creation of the website and platform constituted an incredible initial effort that launched the organization. So on the next slide, you see a photo from a launch event in New York City in 2024 with some of the leaders of that work represented there on stage. One of whom will also participate in this presentation, Bryony Roberts, there with the microphone. So to share more about the web platform, I'll now hand it over to Defna to tell you a little bit more about that particular project. Thank you so much.
Yes, so as Lindsay said, the web platform of Feminist Spatial Practices is an interactive online archive that highlights and promotes the diverse ways feminism is practiced in the built environment, and currently it holds over 600 spatial practices in art, design, architecture, and activism from the past and the present. So the web platform actually emerged from this Feminist Spatial Practices Part 1 diagram created by Bryony Roberts and Brianna Aiken, commissioned from Jenks Foundation and eFlux for the Chronograms of Architecture project. And this landscape of diverse feminist practices and movements, activist movements, practices, publications, ideas that expands over geographies and times. And it is around this spinal cord that is actually a chronological political struggles and is open to expand in every direction. So the web platform emerged as a response to this inherently incomplete and ever-expanding nature of the initial map. And it's created by the contributions of community members from different parts of the world. And all the entries are categorized under 6 themes that also existed in the initial diagram, which are alternative materialities, collaborative practices, embodied theories, expanding histories, experimental pedagogies, and spaces for non-conforming bodies. And the design of the web page has 2 different views. The first one being the tapestry view. And as you zoom in the tapestry view, you get more and more detailed information of the entries. And as you click on one of these pixelated tapestry patterns, you will come up with the full summary of the practice, including the dates, the theme, the subcategory, and then the people that are affiliated with the entry. The second view is the index view, which is an accessible way to navigate through the entries. And both views offer the same filters. You can limit your search by the theme, by one of the 6 themes, or the category, so the medium of the entry. And as we mentioned, this web platform, this archive is inherently incomplete and it's ever expanding. So we have our submission page where we invite everyone to suggest new entries. So you can just go to the submissions tab and suggest an entry by simply choosing a category, a theme, and then writing a short description, which will later be vetted by an internal working group before being launched into the web platform. And lastly, in our community page, you can see the timeline. It's kind of like a documentation of our past events and also where we kind of promote our future events. And here, like on the left upper corner, you can see 6th of March, 2026. We are in the Sowing Solidarity event. And now I will pass to Renske to further explain the project.
Yes. Yeah, so we had like initiated the first built the first collective. We had initiated the web platform, and then people in the United States started to have in-person events. And Daphne and I, on the other side of the ocean, were like, oh, we so badly want to be there. We also want to connect to each other. But then we started thinking, okay, maybe we want to build something in the Netherlands. So it was very much like, oh, we finally feel we belong to a kind of group, but how do we embody this belonging and how does it feel? So we started actually with the idea to make one event here in Delft. But soon we also started to receiving emails from people across the globe that also wanted to do events and participate. So at a certain point, I thought, okay, there's something to say for an international solidarity working group. So that was Mamuma, that was Lydia, that was Evelyn, and they will all speak a little bit later. So what I personally experienced very much was we all have this sense of belonging. We all are reaching out together. And this is from around the globe a very shared feeling. Like we all have this uneasiness with how the practice is going. And it's very much idea of, okay, how can I relate to this? And I think also throughout the events in this week, I often heard people saying, yeah, we want to build community, but we don't want to have the admin. And we don't have time to do it. But I would say, I don't agree. Because with this project, I see so many people going so far and all volunteering that at a certain point we're like, we don't have more work anymore. But still people were like, I want to do something. I want to belong. And from that, working together also became very much like, you're already doing enough. Everybody who's sitting here is already doing enough. And if we do it together, we can slowly build further and make change. So when we started in this international group thinking about, okay, what do we want to do? Do we want to make one event or how can we work? A few things popped up that became important for us. For one, we wanted to have academia, meeting culture, meeting activism. So we wanted to move beyond like purely academic or purely professional projects, but start to look for the integration. The other thing was that we wanted to make a sequence. We felt like, okay, if we do one big symposium somewhere in Delft, everybody needs to fly, especially the mothers in the group were like, actually, I don't want to fly far, but I want to be part of this. And then I remember very clearly from Bratislava and Pakistan, but we can do an event here. And we were also still in that we can do an event here. So from that idea started the idea of a distributed sequence, and also not necessarily building new events, but just connecting all the practices that are already happening and are already available there. The other thing that was very important for us was connection to the local practices, and that we wanted to make experience together. And I was so happy when we started sewing together today, because for me that was very much a sign of, yeah, we can do other things together and at the same time talk about the topics that are important for us. So with this kind of ingredients, we now launch or start. This is the very first event, and it's also not a set sequence. It's a very open project. The International Solidarity Initiative that nurtures exchange between feminist spatial practices worldwide through highlighting and connecting events organized by local partners, fostering global solidarity through collective space making and knowledge sharing. The local events are organized by academics and in a cultural context. They explore feminist spatial themes that are relevant to the local context. And by working together in a working group, we share spirits from one place to the other to learn from each other and see, well, I mean, this is what I learned already in this project. We still have a lot of ideas about how things go on the other side of the world, but they're not true. And it's very, very important to keep talking to each other and share these different perspectives. So where are we right now? We have a sequence of events. This is not the right order, but we have a sequence of events lining up, which involved like Delft today, but also Lahore, or let's say Pakistan, Mexico, USA, China, Slovakia, India, and we have launched this on Instagram 2 weeks ago, and we already have other people involved in this. And what is for me the most impactful way of working like this is that actually the people that were working locally are now eligible for different funds because they have international outreach. So it makes it easier also for the local activities to emerge. To give a little bit more body to this, who's there and who's working and what is already happening, I want to invite a few speakers to give a brief introduction about what they're doing. And the first one is Irene. Most people that are here in the room already know her, but this is especially for the people online to share a little bit more about your...
Hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Irene Luque. I'm assistant professor here at the Faculty of Architecture. I'm looking at them because I already look at you the whole day. No, but in general. So I am here at Delft in Netherlands, and what we are trying to do here for the last 2 years is to be explicit about how we educate new generations and also how we research about questions of feminism and spatial design. I have been an activist for my whole life, I think, and I struggled many times to put together through my professional career because I worked for many years in professional practice. And I was really frustrated how professional practice dismiss a lot questions of feminism, despite how many theories, how many methodologies, how many groups are out there. So when I became part of this university, and I also saw an empty space, or the feminists who were here left us, I felt the need to activate that. So that's how the last 2 years, the BK-Feminist, we became a space to gather, to get to know the past, the present, and potential futures. And that was the first edition that we did in 2025. And it was very much about filling the gaps that this faculty has maybe intentionally forgotten on who was here, who was teaching here, who was also producing questions of woman in architecture, but also urbanism here in this faculty. And then this year we realized that besides filling the gaps on who and how things were done, we are also in a very conflicting time where we cannot leave behind questions of intersectionality, diverse ways of embodying feminism. And we have a lot of colleagues in our walls that belong to territories where things are not as safe, as open, and even as possible as we have now in these walls. So in this Woman in Polycrisis, we wanted to talk about the plurality of crises that we embodied. And we went during the whole week. So we went from the whole week to discussing on the idea of like, we are here very focused on training skills, but this faculty needs to be a space for critical thinking. And if we talk about critical thinking, we also need to engage with the plurality of feminisms, and we should not engage only on what maybe white European women suffer, but also how other women in other parts of the territory are engaged and what type of practice we do for that. For that, we have been in the last year, these actually are more pictures from last year, gathering together. But this week, explicitly, we went from understanding polycrisis to, for instance, on Wednesday, we have a very powerful event about feminism in Palestine, Syria, and Sudan, to right now focus a bit more in solidarity and network building. And I don't have a very comprehensive reflection yet about this, but
We don't need to.
yeah, but I think that is part of it, that when we were doing this final event of sewing together, I had the feeling of seeing you all sewing together, that things will come together, and that the women who are here and want to build networks or etc., we need to start connecting also with the struggle somewhere else, because feminism is something that not everyone can afford. And the question is how the ones who we can afford it can also create connections there and embody that suffering. So yeah, it's something that I have all the time in my mind this week. I cannot avoid it. And I'm very happy to be part of the feminist special practice, because I hope this network also helps on that, on connecting with places that there are no opportunities to connect. Yeah.
Thank you. Then I would like to invite the next one, which is Evelien Pieters from Belgium. She's here from the Platform for Architecture and Feminism. It's the word to you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Very happy to be here and to be part of this whole amazing week and this whole international network. And but I'm just gonna share mostly what we do in Belgium. So PAF, Platform for Architecture and Feminism, is based in Belgium. We are a reflective initiative, a growing intergenerational community. We started about 3 years ago, and we bring together architects, designers, students, researchers in conversation to bridge the gap between feminist theory on the one hand and also really the reality of architectural practice in Belgium. So one part of what we most certainly do discuss with PAF a lot is this lack of representation of women and marginalized voices in the Belgian architectural sector, in the educations that's still very present. And we use an intersectional feminist lens to look at also work culture itself, ask why does the sector still push people out, and how can we discuss these entrenched norms that are very much still present in practicing architecture. But also for us, it's most definitely not just about who designs, but also about what we design, how we design, etc. We believe that if we can change the practice, we change the output. And so we host conversations on a diversity of topics like care, maintenance, and justice, and how this can transform, these values can transform our work and create a more inclusive and just architecture sector in Belgium. So for the coming years, we've just started actually. Oh, yeah. It's just one other slide, so that's already our website if you want to know more. The program for the coming years is built around like 6 interrelated program lines that we're now starting on mostly, and we're working together with a broad network of partners also in Belgium and abroad, because also a lot of people that are in this network are present here. So to just shortly sum those up, the first program line is really about feminist design practice. We organize book clubs, discussion evenings to really get the community, get the people in Belgium together from our sector and explore how these themes can really be implemented in design. We work on work culture through mentoring and inspiration sessions, and we try to experiment collectively with how we can bring these values into daily architectural practices, really to the working floor. We focus on architecture schools together with architecture school students, educators, in Belgium and with the Flanders Architecture Institute, we're starting a project to build a shared resource bank of intersectional references that can be really used very practically in design education. And we're organizing a series of conversations. We're going to travel all around the country in Belgium, past the different architecture schools. There are a lot of them, and design schools, and really share personal experiences and share ideas on how we can improve, also in between institutions. Then feminist memories. We try to not forget who came before us, and initiatives that already came before us were really built on that. So this spring, for instance, we are co-curating a public program with the Flanders Architecture Institute again, who are organizing a really nice archival exposition on some feminist networks that were present in the 1980s and 1990s in Belgium that were really forgotten. So we're trying to bring these generations together. These women, amazing women, are still alive and can tell us how they were experiencing things and how they were organizing, and we're trying to connect these lines. And then we also are really strong on building network alliances. So yearly we organize a feminist architecture assembly in Belgium where we try to connect all kinds of people and initiatives that are in Belgium working on these topics. And we're also trying to collaborate in this network, of course. And then the last thing, but also important, is our own organizational model that we're still building up and also trying to build on some of the same values and experimenting on how to do that, which is also what we discussed today, quite a struggle sometimes. So yeah, we believe that it's a small country, it's a small sector that we're working in, but that way really from a lot of individuals and small things from the inside out, there can really be a lot of change made if we connect people from all kinds of groups. So if you want to know more, please follow us. And I'm excited to hear more.
Thank you, Evelien. So the next one is all the way from Pakistan, Lahore, Mahmouma Iqbal, and she will tell us a little bit about women in architecture Pakistan and how she is involved in the International Solidarity Project. Use this for me.
Thank you so much, Rensker. So as she was introducing me, I'm Mahmouma Iqbal. I traveled all the way from Pakistan, and I'm very happy to be here among all these lovely people. And, I was just looking at this presentation and I had a big smile on my face because I feel like I am among my people. So this is our Executive Council. We started WAP, Women in Architecture Pakistan. So along with my picture, you can see Sana Numan. She, along with another woman, they started the organization. But I jumped in like a year later. And then because Sana has been busy with her master's and some other family commitments. So mostly it has been me in the last couple of years to run the show, which is tiring at the sometimes, but it is very, very rewarding as well. And then I cannot do this without the help of my lovely council. I won't bore you with the details of them, but they are there. And we also have launched recently regional chapters. So we have the National Council and we have the provincial chapters. We have Punjab, Sindh, Gilgit-Baltistan, and Islamabad, that is the capital territory. And our vision is actually to have a future where all architects in Pakistan, irrespective of their gender, can be equally valued and have the opportunities to work in the profession. And they are not bounded by their gender in any way. And this has been a real challenge for women architects in Pakistan, particularly because Pakistan is a very patriarchal society, and we know that. And although our male colleagues, they want to be supportive and they want to have an inclusive environment, but the society is built in a way that a lot of time women architects are not, they do not have as much opportunities, and particularly because the gender roles are very, very strictly defined. So when the woman will get pregnant after her marriage, or after even sometimes the marriage, she would step away from the work for a few years. And if she wants to join back, there's no support network for her. So one of our very important focus is to provide support network to such women, and also to provide support network to young women architects or any women architects who want to have some kind of support in their life. They need some kind of support. So, and also one of the major agenda is to represent the work of women architects, because we have some exceptional female architects working in Pakistan, but their work sometimes is not as much strongly represented on all the medias. So we try to do that. And no, that one doesn't work. Okay. So we, in the past, we have been doing some events. We have this symposium called Voices of Women Architecture a couple of years ago, where we had women architects from all over Pakistan and also from UK joining us. It was in collaboration with WIA, the Women in Architects UK organization. We had workshops, panel discussions, and then we had exhibitions of the work of women architects in Pakistan. And it was a very interesting event. And the outcome of that event is that we applied for a funding for the Mies van der Rohe Foundation, and we got selected. And we made a documentary on South Asian women architects, which we are going to present in Barcelona, in Mies van der Rohe Pavilion on 9th March. And I would love to show it here in TU Delft at some point. We have been organizing a number of workshops. This one is called EDI by Design. It was organized in collaboration with Cardiff University, where we talked about equality, diversity, and inclusion in the context of the walled city of Lahore. That is a very complex urban environment. And we have, among other things that we do, we have this monthly feature where we showcase the work of some young female architect. So on every month we have a new architect and her work being represented on all our socials. And we also have this other thing that we do monthly, that is the fireside chat. So middle career to senior architects, we organize these chats with them. And these are online events because it's very difficult for women mostly to come out of their house and to be somewhere in person. So we try to be as inclusive as we can and celebrate women architects in Pakistan as we go along. We have organized collaborative studios in the past. This one was called Gender and the Built Environment, in which we mapped the feminist discourse of the city of Lahore and how women are represented, how different genders are represented in the built environment. And the outcome of this is actually I am to put on the FSP festival, FSP website. So please follow on that. And then we do this mentorship program that we launched last year. It is to, so we have the call for mentors and we have call for mentees. And we match them based upon the preferences and based upon the forms that we provide them. And then last time we had in-person and hybrid, but this time it's mostly online because we are doing nationwide now. And the idea is to provide young female architects, fresh graduates, or even the students who are in their final year of their studies to provide some kind of mentorship of what they want to do in their life. And the mentors can be males as well, but mentees are always female. So we want to support the the young women architects in the country. And as the next event in Lahore is happening, as we have been telling everyone since morning, I have been telling everyone since morning. So we call it Women and City. And because we are doing, as part of this event, we are doing a special justice walk. And we are going to walk. We have identified 3 areas of Lahore, one very historical heritage area, one area of new developments and so on. And then we identify and map the gender activities and how inclusive those spaces are and when women are walking on those streets, on those roads, what are their feelings and how they observe the space and how space react to their to their needs. And then we are going to have a mapping exercise, and the outcome of that will be the one of the tool that will be outcome of the international solidarity. We will be sharing that on FSP website, so please follow on that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then we have the next one. I cannot pronounce your last name. I'm very sorry, but Lydia is here from Bratislava, and she will talk about Spolka, the local initiative.
Hello, my name is Lydia Grešakova from Central Eastern pronunciation, and I came by train from Slovakia, from the Institute of Sociology of Slovak Academy of Sciences, and from Spolka, who is today with me on the photograph. And this is a non-profit studio of architecture and sociology, and it's part of feminist spatial practices. And what I will talk about is that it started in 2016, so it's 10 years old now, which we are celebrating also the whole year. And we started as a group of friends who wanted to improve the quality of life of, firstly, our hometown, since we were all finishing our studies abroad. But what started as a group of friends then in 10 years grew into a bigger full-time organization who is dealing with spatial justice, marginalized perspectives, co-creation, collaborating with municipalities, NGOs, activists, and many other stakeholders. Not just in Slovakia or Czech Republic, but also in Europe. We are part of the European Bauhaus or Year of Climate Care.
Yeah, you have to
Clear. Okay. And what we do is specific because of the context we are in. In Central Eastern Europe, of course, like Mamuna said, historical developments were different than in the global West, from which knowledge usually come from. And we were somehow troubled by our experience in the field, since we were working with sensitizing others towards needs of people wherever we worked. For example, this is the project where we worked with the municipality of Modra, a smaller city in the West Slovakia, and this was their first participatory process of deciding of the future of the street that crosses the city center. And we found out that concepts of participation or feminist spatial practice are somehow different in our context, that we need to find out more about what do we use and how do we work and how do we adjust. So this, you see my colleague Katarina, who is outside in the street talking to locals with a member of municipality. But we also do our own interventions in space. This is Urban Landscape KVP, as the district is called KVP, where the intervention took place. And this was also a New European Bauhaus nominee in, I think, 2023. So this is another way how are we trying to shape the discourse and bring the values of also climate care and feminism into the practical everyday life. But we also facilitate workshops and whole participatory processes. We are trying to also work in education. We developed our own summer school called Never Never School, where we are trying to experiment with caring pedagogy in our own context. And last thing we did this year, which is also connected to this event, is that we are trying to map feminist spatial practices also in the context of Slovakia and Czech Republic, to be able to know how to maybe bring more care into the planning and architecture and everyday life, based on the knowledge that is situated, that is from our context. And thus we are also creating a small network between a lot of practitioners who were not really so much in contact with each other, similar to what the global network is doing. And this was an exhibition that stems from the ongoing research of mapping these practices. And this is the exhibition that was in Prague that we did together with Občina Collective, Czech Collective, together with my colleague Zuzana Tabačková from Spolka. And this exhibition will be traveling also to Berlin in June and Bratislava in September, October, November, December, where also feminist spatial practices event will take place, a local festival in Bratislava in mid-October, consisting of a discursive dinner, walk, also sewing solidarity workshop similar to what we experienced here today, in the hope that we will find our own voice in the global movement and strengthen our relationships and somehow gather strength and our own power to make this world a better place from our positions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to say, sorry, we need a little bit more time than an hour, but I would like to have introduce you also to two speakers from online who are joining. And the first one is Ishita. I hope you are there, Ishita.
Yes,
can you say something?
I'm very much here.
Yeah, there you are. Perfect. She's calling in from Bangalore, telling about curating for culture shortly, because she will also be part of our sequence of events.
Thank you, Renske, and thank you, everyone. I hope I'm clear and audible. And namaste and namaskara from where I am. I'm going to speak about this project that sort of is housed under the larger collective, and I'll come to what the collective does a little later. This is an online archive called Women of Vastukala. So this is where a lot of our work in terms of women and architecture and space making began. We built an archive of oral histories about women practitioners from architecture, design, planning, allied disciplines. And not many of them were known, are still not known, their works were not known. And this became a way to trace their life history and their journey. And then moving on to the next slide. This is what the platform today looks like. It was launched in 2022. This project was possible because of a Graham Foundation grant. And since then, the collective has sort of taken this work forward. You can actually scan the QR code. It's an open access platform. And it's been a very important commitment that we slowly keep detailing, growing, making the platform better. So making an archive more and more accessible, reachable, readable. If I put it in other ways, I think at the collective, archiving is a form of protest for all kinds of invisibilization. And one of them is the invisibilization of women in space-making practices. Moving from there on, we basically started tracing their physical archives when we were basically invited to launch this archive through an exhibition. And it was so much more than just drawings, models, and the usual architectural paraphernalia that we discovered. There was also missingness of archives and belongings. There was a question about whether these stories are important, who are they important to? And what we did in this process is also left the questions open to the audience rather than tying it all down, concluding. We invited the audience to weave these stories, respond to these critical questions, embody and connect with this work in more ways than one. And yeah, I think since then, the archive has been its own entity. It is being critically discussed by scholars in publication. It is being invited to national level exhibitions or initiatives. But simultaneously, we have also been critically reviewing our own work, intent, and ways of inclusion, because we didn't want to really stop at building an archive, though the archive has a lot more work to do because at the moment it has oral histories of 21 women practitioners, and we have really just scratched the surface, to be very honest. But there are more questions which seem pertinent. I think many of you have spoken about it, but I might still repeat it in my own ways. The questions of how can the practice of documentation and representation affect spatial practices, particularly in India and South Asia? How can space making address the ever-growing cultural fragilities? We are very gutted, definitely, about what's happening globally, but a lot more is misplaced and unjustified in the micro context of the country where we are at the moment. And I don't think I shy away from saying this, and many would agree with me that spatial design and placemaking practices have actively played roles in marginalizing. They still continue to, unfortunately, furthering the divide in the society or not caring for the planet. And I don't mean to draw a very gloomy picture. So moving on to the last slide, we have had there are range of intersectional practices that are affecting spatial perception in India quite deeply. They need not even be architects or designers. We have had the opportunity to work with them in many collaborative ways. And that's where I think I bring in the collective Curating for Culture. That's whom I'm representing today. We believe and we work towards building communities that care in their own ways, and space becomes an integral part of it rather than space making being seen as an independent entity. And hence, where we are at the moment, as far as the FSP Solidarity Program is concerned, International Solidarity Program is concerned, we want to take similar steps. We want to outgrow the archive from the screen, from the data or the documentation, come together in one space or many spaces. We want to sort of offer a platform for more practices to emerge, to think of new ideas, to think of new ways, which can draw, I don't know, a document of ethics or manifesto or reading of histories that really affect the present and hence the future of space making practices. But all of this work would be co-curated, rooted in the micro context at the moment in the country. It will be rooted in the micro histories, but in dialogue and deliberation with the projects and pedagogies that sort of inspire us from the global network. So that's where we are. A lot of it is open. It's getting decided based on different collaborators, different project participants. Few of the community members are also in the audience who have joined us, because I realized that I've invited them very last minute. And we'll see how we shape it together without, sort of being too formal, too tight, and to see how it becomes a dialogue of continuum rather than something that's, again, a one-off event, done, dusted, and forgotten.
Thank you, Ishita, very much for your insight in what you're doing in Bangalore. Then as last part of the organizations, I also want to invite Bryony Roberts. She is like the founder of Feminist Spatial Practices, and she will shortly tell us a little bit about the in-person events that happen in the United States.
Thank you, Renska. It's such a pleasure to be part of this event and just so inspiring to hear everybody speak and hear more about all of these specific programs around the world. I want to nod also to the co-founder of FSP, Adriana Aiken, who isn't with us today, but was so pivotal in, making all of this happen and getting it off the ground. So yeah, I'll be organizing an event in Los Angeles as part of this series, and it grows from all of the events that we've already done in the United States, both in person and also virtual events that have been globally accessible. And resonating very much with what Ishita was just talking about, I think we really strive to find ways to bring knowledge sharing and community building together. So we built this archive, which is, motivated by knowledge sharing, but really want to find ways of having knowledge feel accessible through lived experience and embodied experience, kind of arguing for the fact that that so much knowledge about the lives of marginalized genders and sexualities, comes through lived experience and is known through bodies. And so in all of our events, we try to create environments that are tactile and interactive and kind of challenge maybe the formality of typical academic environments and invite a more playful and collective way of sharing space and sharing knowledge. So this is photos from a making workshop that we did at eFlux in Brooklyn, which created these giant fluffy poofs, which became the seeding for the launch event for our online platform at eFlux, and also had many other lives, such as for this pedagogical workshop, also in Brooklyn, that we did with ReArc Institute, which has been an incredible supporter of our project. We're so grateful to them. And this was an event where we sort of challenged conventional pedagogies by learning from feminist theory and practices, looking to ways of challenging power dynamics in the classroom, of partnering with community organizations, so bridging the kind of academia and community divides that sometimes exist, and also thinking about play as a form of learning. So a lot of what we do is thinking kind of about radical pedagogies. Next. We also do events, which this is sort of the inspiration for the event that we're going to do in Los Angeles. So events that invite people to come and share their practices. This was an event at Columbia University in New York back in February 2025. And we intentionally had many speakers that were really showing the breadth of what feminist spatial practices can mean. So a lot of what we do is about awareness to show that it's possible to engage with this topic from so many different mediums, scales, forms of expertise, whether it's academic scholarship or super tactile craft practices or activism, people, speaking to queer history, speaking to women in architecture, so many different angles that we think are crucial to the kind of full diversity of feminist spatial practices. So next. We also invite people to kind of create their own knowledge and cultivate their own awareness of the built environment. This was a workshop at Harvard University, which Lindsay was leading along with Abrianna Aiken and Carrie Roenstahl from our group. And so inviting people to create collages and kind of reflections for themselves, again, thinking about tactile forms of knowledge making and sharing. And then lastly, we're going to have an upcoming event in Los Angeles, which will be kind of related to the Columbia event, inviting a huge range of speakers to, again, spread awareness and also build solidarity, as it is a difficult time in this country under the current government, where things become, increasingly difficult every day for people of marginalized genders and sexual identities. So we feel like it's really important to keep creating these events that build community, bring people together, and just help people feel seen in a moment when there's a lot of dehumanizing happening. So we're really excited about this event that'll take place in the fall in Los Angeles. So stay tuned for updates about that.
Thank you very much, Bryony. So I hope you get a sense of like the amount of work that is already being going on the world. And I know sometimes when you're like working with maybe a few people that are near you, it feels like you're doing it alone. But throughout this work, and especially in this project, you see how much is going on. And I really love that we are like trying to connect to each other and working. And we have been discussing among each other, like, what then do we do together, or where do we go? And for most of it, we don't have the answers to this. This is very much an ongoing project, and we will see what pop up. But one thing we know is that systemic change ripples. So what we need is not like the big revolution and not change in one day, but we need plantable practices, things we can learn from each other, both about community organizing and about different ways of space making. And we thought, okay, if we start working together, this is what we want to work with. We want to value the precedents of practices, value the local context of practices, but also iterate upon the practices we are doing together. And especially in this project, we value this embodied and joyful ways of working. So one of the things you have experienced today is the sewing workshop, and this will be like rippling off to Bratislava, maybe also to Pakistan. We don't say it has to, but for everybody who is part of the sequence of these events, we are creating this menu. Like, this is what we have been doing here. You can iterate on it. Let's connect in this way, not only in the talking, but through the practice we are making. So yeah, this is already what Bryony was talking about, the textile making, but also the spatial justice walk that Mamuma was talking about. We can write a manual and share this on other practices. So let's do spatial justice walks here and connect to each other in this way. Another picture of the spatial justice walk. Same way goes for the dinner. Lydia has developed a feminist discursive dinner format, which we will now also test out in Los Angeles and iterate upon that. And through this, we hope that not only in the community making, but also in the practicing together and actual in designing architecture and urban spaces, we develop this galaxy of plantable practices that are the part of how systemic change ripples, and we can work on it together. We have not made a decision about this, but we can imagine that we develop small booklets that then are downloadable and changeable. So, for example, what we did with the website, we now have a plantable practice where you can map your own local context in relation to the online archive we have. So here you see the design of it, and here you see the first practice of it, which was in Belgium in November. What we have done is we developed a small booklet around this that explains the history of the mapping, the history of feminist spatial practices, how we do it. It gives you some insights about how to organize your workshop locally. And in this way, we make it easier to have the practices spread and ripple and continue. And this is one way of how we now see our collaboration loosely iterating and developing upon each other, and how we hope to keep on working together. Oh, sorry, can I go back? I don't know. Yeah, and in this way, we hope to keep on sowing solidarity, feminist solidarity all together. And I was, like, even I was thinking in organizing all of this, it's all voluntary work. And sometimes I think like, oh, I rather would spend time on my research, on my design, you know, why do I do all these community things? But then I'm here today and I think I need the community. I cannot even do my practice anymore without you. And that gives me so much energy to continue. And I hope we can just find and keep on finding more ways to keep working on this. Before the last part of the event, I just wanted to really say thanks for everybody who was in the International Solidarity Working Group, who is working on this with us together. I want to say thanks to Daphne for all the beautiful graphic design she's always working on. And yeah, follow Feminist Spatial Practices. Reach out to us if you want to collaborate. We try to do our best and see what we can do. And then, in the spirit of international solidarity, I want to invite Diane to come here. Oh yeah, I can turn the camera in a moment, but maybe you can come here for 1 second first. Yeah. So before this event, we had a sewing workshop, and maybe you can tell a little bit about what you came and did here today, if you want.
Yes, I prepared something.
Yeah, thank you.
So I facilitated the workshop, and it was such a beautiful experience to me to be in a room full of really inspiring women. In this workshop, we use textile and craft as a political tool to reflect on the themes of the week. The participants worked in individual pieces, responding to ideas of solidarity, care, and shared responsibility in times of polycrisis. Then we assembled these pieces together in a bigger banner. The process was about slowing down, sitting together, getting our hands dirty, and recognizing also craft as a form of care and resistance.
Thank you. And then now I want to give the word to Irene and Julia from TU Delft here to pass on the knowledge. To pass on the knowledge to I think to the next sequence in the event, which is Mamoma.
Julia, floor is yours.
Yeah, so, well, amazing. Thank you. No, it's good like this. Thank you so much. So, well, this is the beautiful work that all of the people actually in this room created, guided by Diane, and you were also part of it.
Yeah.
So maybe before we hand it over, it would be nice to shortly touch upon what we see here and all the stories that came up. So, well, you've been talking a lot about the sort of individual strands and about solidarity. So we see a few patches where it comes back that maybe we are sort of individuals, but then the threads bring us together, and solidarity is actually what keeps us grounded. So it's actually the thing that has us not fly off somewhere too. There were people discussing how in terms of, well, this crisis, polycrisis that we're in, militarization, that actually care is the thing. We see it here with like motherhood. People reflected on it, that maybe if we let ourselves be touched by care, that then we can also, well, create a more gentle world in a way. That also links to, well, other events that took place this week. So there's also words written down on freedom, that freedom is what solidarity means and what feminism can be. So we have it in different languages, in Arabic, and I think also Turkish somewhere.
And Urdu.
And in Urdu. Yeah, and a lot of these are also practices that were just felt through the hands. So a lot of the touches are not necessarily deep, well, or things that are expressible in words, but actually people just followed what their hands guided them to do. And I think that's also a beautiful way to sort of hand it over, because there's a lot of embodied knowledge in this as well. And it's in that sense a beautiful thing that it will travel with you, and maybe others will touch it and other ideas will spring from it. So, yeah.
It's going to be a difficult wrap up.
Thank you so much. I will share it. We'll be hanging it in the Pakistan's event, and of course, crediting you over there. And maybe we can have you online to talk about it as well.
I would love that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I fold it like that?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, everybody. This was the wrap up of the week and of this event. Also, thank you, everybody online, for joining. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really happy, and also looking forward to drinks. And I hope everybody online to see you back in the other events. We will be sharing parts of each event online, so you can also join the event in Pakistan for a little bit through this way. And we hope to keep on building a community. Thank you.